Letters from the front. Mrs. McClure of Elphingston is in receipt of a letter from Private H. Main of the 5th Victoria Mounted Rifles, the Field Force, South Africa, dated Middleburg, July the 9th, 1901. The writer enjoys splendid health and wishes to be remembered to all Taradale friends. He says, quote, "It is pitiful to see the burning of farmhouses, yet it is humane to do this, as it is the only means of bringing the deluded Boers to their senses. Middleburg is not a very large place, but it is the base camp for all the troops working around the district, so that it is busy at all times. The worst and only reverse we have suffered was after the general divided us into two columns. One night the Boers rushed one column and made a clean sweep of everything, capturing 2 pom-poms and killing 18 Victorians and wounding 35. Then they shot about 150 horses, and when the column in which I was arrived 10 hours later, a most horrible sight met our eyes. I shall never forget it. We had a sad work before us to bury such a lot of our comrades, and I never want to do the same thing again. The other day we were inspected by Lord Kitchener's brother. He was pleased with us and asked if we were not tired of the war. We said no, and then he told us he had about 2 years of it. There are about 500 refugees in camp here, and owing to the measles there is a great mortality among them." A letter from Trooper H. McLean of Harcourt, writing to his brother on the 25th of last month from Bronthurstspruit, says, "When last I wrote I was in hospital at Pretoria, but I came out there on the 8th of July and was sent to Middleburg to join the column again. I got there on the 10th and started trekking again next day. W. McMahon was there looking as well as ever, so we are together again. On this march we hardly fired a shot, and I think the Boers are pretty well cleared from that part. We met Colonel Benson's column on the 18th at Rietfontein and saw Henry Vick looking as black as the ace of spades. It's surprising how dirty you get on the trek, and the dust sticks to you. When we met Benson's column, we halted for a day and had a bit of a sports meeting, tug of war and such like. We have the Seaforth Highlanders and the Duke of Cornwall's light infantry with us. In the tug of war, our fellows beat the Cornwalls, but the Seaforths were too good for us. A team from the Scottish Horse and a team of ours had a wrestling match on horseback, and we beat them. From here we all went round Renosterkop again and found a Boer lager hidden among the koppies in very rough country and burnt it. Sergeant Buckingham was killed that day. It is not very pleasant to be under fire the first few times, but you get used to it. At one farmhouse we came into, there were plenty of fowls and pigs, but no firewood, so we smashed up all the furniture, a lovely piano included, and used it to cook our poultry. The writer then gives a description of the Victorian disaster at Wilmensrust, very similar to the particulars already to hand and published. We've got several officers with us from the 4th contingent. Colonel Otter is missing, and we don't know where he is. I saw a letter in one of the Melbourne papers that he wrote from Pretoria. We all attended Sergeant Buckingham's funeral yesterday. He was buried with military honours. His body was wrapped in a Union Jack and placed on a 15-pounder and taken to his grave at the Bronkhurstspruit station. The bushmen that are with us reckon that we are having a hotter time than any of the other contingents. If we go on losing men as we are, there will be none of us left shortly. We've been living high since we came in. In the canteen the prices are Quaker oats 9D, condensed milk 6, butter 1 and 9, sugar 3D, tobacco a quarter of a pound if they have it. These are soldiers' prices only. A couple of our fellows got into trouble for sleeping on sentry and being captured by the Boers. It's rumoured here that we're going to Pretoria and finish up there, but I don't think they will let us go so soon. It's terribly cold here in the nights and quite hot in the daytime, but the rainy season will be on us in a couple of months when it rains for a week at a time. Remember me to all my friends, etc. From our war correspondent, the Kyneton Guardian, the 2nd of November 1901, Cape Town. The SS Britannicus arrived in Table Bay on Saturday. I was amongst the first to board the boat and met the only Kyneton soldier on board, Trooper Geoffrey Wilmot, who gave me a good account of Kyneton. In an interview with him, I asked, "What sort of trip did you have?" His answer was, "Never before have I had such terrible food to eat. It was not fit for dogs, and sometimes we refused to eat it. About a week after we left Melbourne, we refused to work unless they gave us better food. We were treated like dogs, and everyone on board will tell you the same thing." I might add that I asked my cousin, who was in command of the troops on the Britannicus, about the food, and he voiced the feelings of the others when he said the food was rotten. Anyway, the Victorian boys have arrived, and the majority of them have joined the Scottish Horse and have left for Dundee, where they will have plenty to do. Perhaps you will remember that Lieutenant Arud Kelly left here in June for Australia to get recruits for the Scottish Horse, but the government would not allow him to recruit. He was not to be denied, for as soon as he had left the Heads, Queenscliff, he put up a notice to this effect: "Lieutenant Kelly, Scottish Horse, will be at the mess room from 10 to 12 to take recruits for the Scottish Horse. Pay 6 shilling a day." By this means, a great number of men took the opportunity and joined him, so he arrived here with quite a nice contingent for the Scottish Horse, made up from Victorians. They were met by the Marquis of Tullibardine himself, who is going to be very shortly give Lieutenant Kelly his 2 stars, Captain. Okay, folks, here's sticking up like a cocky. We're at our last stop for today, Sunday the something of August, maybe the 20th. So we've done 4 monuments today. Could have done a 5th, could have gone up to Malawa. The ladies at the cemetery that were cleaning up the graves mentioned a Boer War site in Malawa, which was up near Yarrawonga, once again up on the Murray. It was only an extra 60 kilometres, but I think it was in a hall, and the hall wouldn't be open. I did look on the net. I could have rung someone maybe to try and got me in there, but you know, I've done enough driving for today. What have I done? I can't see. I've done about 300 kilometres driving. I've still got to get home, so didn't want to get too carried away, did we? So this is a lovely little town. I think we've stopped here. I think we can come home via this way. Look at this old building here, eh? The old general store. I can see the Boer War monument. But look at this, the old bushel sign. Delicious coffee. Bushels. Wow, look at it. The old material. Long gone, closed down. Anyway, the Boer War monument looks a beaut, a real beaut. It's got an old cannon. Gee, that's nice, isn't it, eh? Oh yeah, this is one of the better ones. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the best one of today. Already I see something I like. So, pro dioet patria, which is the motto of the Victorian Mounted Rifles. A Private Louis Bond killed at Wilmantrust, 12th of June 1901. Now Wilmantrust, hey, remember? Check out Sutton Grange for the disaster at Wilmantrust. and I contacted the guide a couple of nights ago and said that was one particular place I wanted to visit. The Vilmans Rus disaster. Also got Private Fred Jeffrey, died at Pinetown, 1st of May 1902, for the Empire. Old Jeffrey didn't quite make it to the end of the war. He was only a month off the end of the war. Local something citizens maybe. Lieutenant L. Maygar, VC. Oh, Victoria Cross. So here's a little bit about Leslie Cecil Maygar, the Australian that was awarded a VC in the Boer War. I found this on Wikipedia. It says, following the outbreak of the Second Boer War, Maygar unsuccessfully attempted to volunteer for active service on several occasions with the 1st and 2nd contingents of the Victorian Mounted Rifles that were departing for South Africa, but was prevented from doing so due to a decaying tooth. He was later accepted into the 5th contingent and was promoted to the rank of lieutenant. He arrived in Cape Town in March of 1901. Maygar's unit was constantly in action for the next 12 months, seeing service north of Middelburg, the eastern Transvaal, then at Renosterkop, Klippen, Komfontein and Druwelfontein, before being transferred to Natal in August. He was 29 years old and a lieutenant in the 5th Victorian Mounted Rifles when the following deed took place, for which he was awarded the Victoria Cross. On the 23rd of November 1901 at Geelhoutboom, Natal, Maygar galloped out and ordered men of a detached post which was being outflanked to retire. The horse of one of the men was shot under him when the enemy were within 200 yards, and he dismounted and lifted the man onto his own horse, which bolted into boggy ground, making them both dismount. As the horse could not carry two, Maygar again put the man on its back and told him to gallop for cover at once while he himself went on foot. All this took place under very heavy fire. Maygar's award was presented by Lord Kitchener, and he was also later mentioned in dispatches. He returned to Australia in March of 1902. He was later to lose his life in the First World War in Palestine. Lieutenant Corporal R. Jeffries, Private Grant Jeffries, Lewis Knott, Robbins, Welch, Halsell. It's got Saint Takloni Sculptor, Nagambie. We went to Nagambie. That cannon is 1846. You can actually download the app for Victorian Navy relics from Cerebus. This is erected 1908 by the residents of the Longwood district in memory of local soldiers who died in the Boer War, 1899 to 1902, lest we forget. The following is from the Euroa Advertiser, Victoria, from the 5th of February 1904, regarding the monument. The monument and a cannon commemorate local men who served in the South African Boer War, and also commemorates the privates Louis Bond and Fred Jeffries who died in the conflict. The cannon is a 25 32-pounder smoothbore gun from Victoria's Shore Defences and or from HMCS Victoria. Quote, a very large gathering of residents of Longwood and visitors attended the official unveiling of the handsome monument erected locally to the memory of these soldiers who took part and fell in the South African War. Major Patterson, Lieutenant Colonel Pleasance, Lieutenants Maygar VC and Crocker were present, with a strong contingent of the 8th Squadron Australian Light Horse, officers and men who fell into position near the monument. The President of the Goulburn Shire, Councillor Z. Ackers, in a brief speech stated the business of the day and called upon the Secretary of the Committee, Mr. A. Trevant, to read a resume of the steps taken in connection with the movement. A public meeting was held on the 6th of August 1902 and a recommendation was placed before the meeting from the reception committee that a permanent memorial of those who fell in the South African War should be erected, and this monument is a result of their labours. Private Louis Bond was a native of Longwood and fell at the fatal disaster at Wilmensrust on the 10th of June 1901. At a later date, the 1st of May 1902, Private Joffreys of Burnt Creek died on duty at Pinetown, and his life was also truly lost for his king. The monument is a handsome pile on a concrete foundation. The first base is of Harcourt granite, the second of Greytown granite, surmounted by a pedestal and column of highly polished green granite from Belgium. A handsome lamp, the gift of the Goulburn Shire Council, stands above all, the monument being a most effective and artistic piece of work. The contractor was Mr. Talicino of Nagambie, who has carried out his work to the utmost satisfaction of the committee and the residents generally. At the foot of the monument is placed a gun donated by the Defence Department, forming a most fitting and effective touch to the memorial. Just an idea. There's quite a lot of men from this district. Local, I can't read it. Captain T. Chomley, or C. Chomley, we've heard that name before. Corporal Tubb, Privates J. Bain, W. Bain, L. Methuen, H. Bond, J. Breen, F. Burke, W. Dudley, and J. Faye by the look of it. It's in good shape. If there's something on the memorial website, I'll read it out for you. Selfie. Been a great day. And now we'll go home. I think if we go up this road, when I adopted Millie, my little dog, she was from Wodonga. We came back via this way, I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to go home that way, I think. See what happens. Alright, well, I hope you've enjoyed your day out with me. Lucky again. Oh, look at that, it's the old hotel. You can just make out the words at the top there. Something mercantile or something. Hotel. G-O-M-E G-G. Yeah, it's well faded. Yeah, sun's come out. Glorious day. I'll go home and watch the footy, Melbourne and Hawthorn. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the trip with me today, and we'll do it again soon. Stop recording. Stop recording. Stop recording.